If you're using a Dynamics portal, then you'll know that one of the biggest benefits is that you're providing your customers and partners with a truly self-service experience where 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, they can get access to their account information, submit cases, view cases, and so on. However, what we can do is we can take the experience and make it a little bit more personalized using something called Liquid. So if we go to the Microsoft documentation page, we can see here we've got information about Liquid, and it's an open source template language, and that's already used in the portals. But what we can do is we can take that and extend it further and put Liquid into content snippets, web templates, the navigation, and so on. What we're going to do in this video is we're going to look at adding it directly to the copy of a page. This is really at this point just so you can see it working a little bit faster when I make those changes. So if I go back to the portal and we look at the subtitle, if I go ahead and click on edit, at the minute it just says customer self-service, so let's remove that, and just for the sake of speed I'm going to paste in some code I've already created. Let's zoom in a little bit. So first of all, what this is saying is if it's a user that's logged in that's looking at this page, what we're going to do is we're going to put welcome, and then we're going to grab the first name of that user and display it. So user dot first name. The first name is actually the name of the field on that contact record. Else, or otherwise, if it's not a user logged in, we're going to say welcome customer. Then we're basically going to end that piece of code. So let's go ahead and just zoom back to 100%. I'm going to go ahead and save that. Now we can immediately see, instead of the customer self-service text, we see welcome Megan. If I then look at somebody that's not logged in, we can see it says welcome customer. So immediately we can see that we've provided something that's a little bit more customized. So as soon as I log in, I see my name. So that's something very, very straightforward. We're basically saying, is the user logged in? If so, let's display their first name. If not, let's just display the word customer instead. So that's the first way to start sort of customizing the portal a little bit more. All right, so now let's look at customizing the profile area. So when someone's actually logged in, if I go to the profile, we've got this text that displays here. So let's customize that just a little bit. So if I go ahead and click on edit again, and then also just for speed, let's paste in something that I've already put together. Now, if you think about it, the profile page is only available to somebody that is logged in. So I don't need to put that first bit of code that says if user. So immediately I can just put hi, first name. And then here, I can put in the parent customer ID dot name. So I'm basically calling the name of the account that this person works at, that they're linked to within Dynamics 365. So I'm basically just saying, thanks for using the portal to manage your account with whatever the name of the account is that they work for. And then just a little bit more information, and then just neatening up some of the standard text that's already in there. So let's go ahead and save that. So there we go. We can see, hi Megan, so that's the first name. And thanks for using the portal to manage your account with Adventure Works. So there's the name of the account. So if you think about other places where you'll be putting that information, you'll be able to see the account they work for, their name and all the rest of it, that's fine, but that's in the forms. So this allows you to still use pieces of data that's in your system and displaying it without having to display that in a form. Okay, so again, that's another way to extend the personalization of the portal and just give it a little bit more personalization to be able to say, hey, we know where you work, we know that information, and displaying it within the text. Okay, so now let's do something a little bit fancier. So if we go to the My Support area, or the Support Home, and we go to the Copy area and click on Edit, let's go ahead and paste some code. So there's a little bit more to this code. It's not that difficult, so we'll walk through and I'll explain what it's actually doing. So what I want to have shown on this page is a little bit of information about the account. So if I'm looking at this, I'm going to be able to see the account number, payment terms, the name of my account, and then also what we're going to do is show some text if the account is actually on credit hold. So first thing that we need to do is we need to actually declare and define the entity that we want to pull these fields from. So a lot of times with code, and this is something that when I first started doing it, it was a fairly new concept, but this is used in quite a lot of different languages. So we're basically saying we're going to call and explain what account details is, and then we're going to use that account details further through the code. So rather than having to write out the full code every time, we basically say account details equals this, and then we use account details further on. So we're basically saying account details equals the account entity based on the user's dot parent customer ID. So we're basically saying find the account where this user that's logged in, the parent, also the account that they're linked to, and find it based on that ID that they're linked with. So that's what that top line is doing. Then we're basically saying, okay, well, if that user actually has that account that they're linked to, then do all of this. If they're not, I'm not declaring anything because I don't want them, I don't need anything else because I can actually only get to that support page if I'm logged in. However, if you in your system can have people logged in that are not linked to an account, then you might need to have something else that says, okay, well, if they're not, then do this instead. But for the sake of this demonstration, I'm saying, yes, we're going to assume that they are linked to an account. So if they have an account, this is just text that's basically saying, your current account status is as follows. Please contact us for any questions, and then just a random email address, or a fake email address in this case. Then we're basically saying the account name is going to be called by using account details, which is this line up here. We're defining what account details means, dot name, which is calling the name field for that specific account. Then we're doing the same for the account number, and that's the account number field name. And then we're doing the same thing for the payment terms code. However, with payment terms, that is an option set. With an option set, you can either call the value or the label. The value is, if you think about when you set up a field, you usually see it, well, you will always see the number 1, 2, 3, and so on. It could be a lot higher depending on how many values you have on your option set. Then you can either do dot label to show what the actual payment term is, net 30, net 60, or you could do dot value, which would show 1, 2, 3, whatever the value is for that specific item in the option set. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind. Then what we're doing is we are looking at the credit on hold, or the on hold field, and we're saying if it's not false, false would be no, so they're not on hold. If it's not that, which there's only two options, you can either be true or false. So if it's not false, it must be true, so therefore show this line of text. So it's basically saying your account is currently on hold, please contact us. Now that's fine, I'm going to go ahead and save it. So now I can see that information. But one thing just to keep in mind, you see how there's all this white space, all these extra lines. So because we're putting this directly into the copy area, what this is doing is it's basically using those line spaces that we've got. So I can just go ahead and remove those lines because I don't want all that empty space. And another thing I want to do is I just want to make this a little bit better in terms of making sure that it stands out. So what I want to do is I want to go ahead and format that text, make it red, make it bold, and then what we can do is just make these items bold as well. So once we save that, we can see looks a lot nicer. We've got rid of all that extra white space. Now, keep in mind that when you're logged in as the someone that's got administration access, obviously you see these lines and stuff around that block. But as soon as somebody that's logged in that isn't one, then obviously they're going to see it looking nice like that. So hopefully that gives you a few ideas in terms of how you can start adding a little bit more customization into the portal to show information without having to always use forms, without always having to use entity lists and things like that. So there's a time and a place for it, but hopefully that gives you a few ideas.